Consider the responsibility of caring for a girl who has recently traveled through time from 1,200 years ago and has arrived in the 21st century. That is accurate. Shu Qing, the primary male protagonist of this narrative, is compelled to supervise a girl who unexpectedly appears before him, originating from the Tang dynasty. The primary obstacle that Shu Qing faces is the necessity of instructing this girl in the mores of contemporary society. Of course, he will have to elucidate to her the reasons why she should not wander around at midnight like a ninja, or wield her sword whenever she feels like it. It will be an exciting journey to determine whether our hero can transform this Tang Dynasty heroine into a 21st century woman. The narrative commences in a bustling metropolitan area where torrential rainfall inundates the streets. In the midst of the thronging multitude, our hero is the sole individual who lacks an umbrella. He commences to run in search of refuge in the dormitory building and commences to ascend the stairs. Shu Qing begins to hear these peculiar voices as he ascends to the summit. In the subsequent instant, his eyes widen in astonishment as he observes a woman gazing deeply into his soul with her intense gaze. He is astonished and blunders, dropping his room key as he recoils. Additionally, the woman takes a step back to ensure that she is at a secure distance. Shu Qing dismisses her as a mere cosplayer and resumes his ascent. However, upon closer examination of her apparel, he is taken aback by its realism. Nevertheless, he dismisses his thoughts and proceeds up the stairs, certain that she is merely a dedicated cosplayer. The woman calls out to him from behind, instructing him to remain in his chamber before he can enter. Shu Qing pauses, turns around, and casually mentions that this is his residence. The female appears somewhat apprehensive and promptly retreats, maintaining a cautious distance. He begins to feel slightly humiliated upon witnessing her response, questioning whether his appearance is so primitive that a girl would mistake him for a random street molester. In any case, he retires to his bedroom. He briefly glances outside before closing the door, only to discover that she is still situated outside. After closing the door, he removes his shirt and slippers, which are both wet. After a steamy bath, he retrieves a can of Coca-Cola and a container of cat food, while simultaneously calling out to his cat Melon. The small furball arrives with a gleam in her eyes and enthusiastically begins to consume her meal. In the interim, our protagonist begins to consume the revitalizing cola, savoring the fizzy sensation with each sip. He casts another gaze toward the exterior and observes that the precipitation is not subsiding. He determines to inspect the peephole in his door after a brief period. Additionally, the girl is no longer present, which is particularly surprising. He cautiously opens the door, wondering if she has departed. However, she appears immediately before his doorsteps as soon as his gate is sufficiently wide. He offers her an umbrella or assistance in reaching her destination, if it is not too far, as he is feeling a bit uncomfortable. Nevertheless, the lady does not respond to either alternative, and instead inquires as to their location. Shu Qing emphasizes that they are situated in his community on Beiwang Road. The girl remains silent for a brief period, uncertain about the outcome. She then inquires as to who our hero may be. Well, that is yet another straightforward inquiry that our hero is unable to address. Consequently, he informs her that he is a mere stranger, albeit with a hint of bewilderment. Subsequently, he endeavors to extend his umbrella to her. However, she remains in awe of this ordinary object, as if it were an alien entity. She introduces herself as a member of the Yan clan and admits that she is unsure of how she arrived here after a brief period of silence. Our hero is left perplexed by her admission, as he wonders whether she is merely a girl ensnared in a costuming fantasy. He attempts to summon assistance while he sighs in exertion and gestures for her to enter. The woman's gaze is fixed on the television as he contacts the Sentry Show. She slashes the television with her blade without hesitation as an advertisement commences to play. Her face turns white, as if she has witnessed a form of sinister magic that necessitates immediate abolition. The youngster remains in a state of bewilderment as the guard inquires about the peculiar sounds emanating from the vicinity. The girl's bloodshot irises direct an intense glare at him. The guard abruptly terminates the conversation, suspecting that our unsuspecting hero may be occupied with an imperative matter, as he is no longer capable of uttering a single word. Shu Qing, bewildered, rubs his head and inquires about her origins. In the interim, the woman is inquisitive about the individuals with whom he was conversing on his brick, and is interested in whether the individuals within the peculiar glass object are deceased. The boy is unsure if this eccentric woman could afford to replace the luxury television she just sliced. after observing the straw sandals she is wearing. Ultimately, he raises his palm in a reassuring gesture, assuring her that he is a decent individual and suggesting that she lay down her sword. The child inquires about her name and place of origin after she retrieves her sword from the television. She promptly responds that she is a disciple of the Yan clan and goes by the name Jiang He. He commends her for devising such an intriguing name and jokingly inquires whether the Yan clan possesses an abundance of wealth to compensate him for his malfunctioning television. The woman is perplexed and inquires as to how he is unaware of an individual of such distinction as the Gusu Yan clan. The boy merely shakes his head, acknowledging that he is unaware of their existence. Her reticence is a testament to her disapproval of this individual, who fails to acknowledge her family. The lad assures her once more that he is sincere and grants her permission to ask any question she desires, as evidenced by her tense expression. The woman timidly acknowledges that her sole objective is to re-establish contact with the Yan clan. Our protagonist, who remains uncertain about the location of the Yan clan, reminds her that they are located in the city of Jiangcheng and inquires whether she is aware of this fact. Our naive hero is now beginning to scratch his head in exasperation, as he is hesitant to consider the possibility that the woman may be from ancient times. She remains silent. Therefore, he inquires about the identity of her emperor. However, the bewildered woman maintains that her emperor is a figure that should be well known to all, causing our hero to be perplexed by her enigmatic response. She gazes at him in bewilderment, perplexed as to why he is unaware of the emperor. Afterward, she inquires of our hero whether it is the 16th year of Kaiyuan. He is taken aback by her response, which causes him to pause and promptly begin scrolling through his phone in search of information. He is astounded to discover that the 16th year of Kaiyuan occurred during the tenure of the 7th emperor of the Tang dynasty, who is renowned for having the longest reign in the dynasty's history. In order to verify her authenticity, he inquires as to whether she is acquainted with Li Longji and references other notable figures from that era. The woman is overjoyed to discover that he is familiar with these names and anxiously inquires as to where she can locate them. Xu Qing humorously informs her that she may locate them in a Chinese mobile game, characterized by an anxious grin. The woman immediately grabs her sword to confront the intruder when a delivery man calls from the doorstep. The boy hurries over, encouraging her to remain composed, as the individual delivering the food is not a threat. Lady Zhang inquires whether the fellow is a servant. However, our hero clarifies that he is simply delivering food. The woman looks on in awe and bewilderment as he accepts the food, observing the entire process of the takeout. The lad then inquires whether she is hungry and would like to consume food. However, the girl reluctantly declines. She inquires of him, standing by the entrance, as to why all the individuals she has encountered in this location have short hair, and she begins to suspect that they may be exiles. Our hero affirms her that this is not the case. However, he then begins to panic and fears that she may have already killed someone upon her arrival and observation of the individuals in question. She promptly assures him that she was merely concealing herself in the darkness. He proceeds to joyfully consume a bite of his burger following that assurance. The girl then again hovers over his face, inquiring about his brief hair. He explains that it is merely a local style, nothing exceptional, with a mouthful. Her gaze remains fixed on the succulent wrap, which is stuffed with vegetables and pork. She is unable to resist the urge, but she quickly pulls herself together and declines to consume food once more. He recommends that she satiate her thirst with the soda if she is unwilling to consume any food. He informs her that it is exceedingly sweet and likely to be dissimilar to any beverage she has previously consumed. Lady John becomes enraged and accuses him of gazing down on her, feeling insulted by his comment. Our protagonist promptly clarifies that his intention was to provide her with sustenance. They commence bickering in the manner of an elderly married couple as their dispute intensifies. During their argument, our protagonist inadvertently tips over his can of Coca-Cola, causing it to spill all over the place. The effervescent beverage commences to bubble on the floor. The girl glances at him in disbelief as she observes the peculiar liquid spreading, and she suspects that he is attempting to coerce her into consuming this peculiar, black, and repulsive substance. The unfortunate individual is trembling with anxiety, despite his assertion that the beverage is not poisonous. He is also making an effort to elucidate the concept of a carbonated beverage. However, the lady from ancient times is unable to comprehend these contemporary concepts. Our hero is pinned down by her in a fit of fury, and she glares at him with fiery eyes before she can cut off his head. She gradually regains her composure after he personally consumes the beverage to demonstrate that it is not poisonous. The girl eventually comprehends the situation, and our hero instructs her to cease drawing her sword on a regular basis, alluding to the fact that she had terrified his cat Melon. After examining her, he comes to the realization that there are only 3 viable alternatives for her removal. He is aware that she would be featured on the news if he were to deceive her into heading outside and allow her freezer to starve. Option 2 is to contact the authorities. However, the mere thought of it causes him to feel uneasy, as she may become enraged and cause a scene by murdering the officers. The third alternative is to supervise her. He is concerned that she may use her sword to injure him if she continues to wield it, despite the fact that she is from ancient times. He elects to accept her and observe the outcome rather than harboring any remorse subsequently. With that resolved, he presents her with the hamburger. She stubbornly looks away and inquires about the object he is holding, despite the fact that she is obviously enticed by the alluring food in front of her. He takes the first bite to demonstrate that it is not poisonous, and she concurs, encouraging him to continue. The boy is closely observed by the lady as he eats, and he realizes that the quantity of food he is consuming may not be sufficient for her. Consequently, he decides to prepare a rice bowl, as he believes that her stomach may not be able to manage the burger. It appears that he was merely inventing justifications for consuming the burger himself. The lady is exceedingly irritated by his complete completion of the task. He motions for her to sit down, but she cautiously inspects the seat by placing her palm against it before settling in. It is a fact that she is unable to fully rely on this peculiar individual, despite the fact that he did offer her his umbrella. She resolves to maintain a vigilant and cautious demeanor, as his room is adorned with peculiarities and he consumes peculiar foods. She inquires about this location once more, and our hero recalls her that it is Jiangcheng City. He is then asked by the woman if he is aware of a method by which she can return home. This time, our hero is frightened when he observes her reaching for her sword once more and insists that she set it down before he responds. He somberly informs her that she may not be able to return due to the fact that they are located exceedingly far from her residence once the sword is no longer visible. The female is immediately excited by this and inquires as to the distance between them. Our hero reluctantly informs her that it is nearly 1,200 years distant. The girl inquires about the meaning of 1,200 years, and he responds that it has been that long since she arrived from her own era. Famous individuals such as Li Bai, Yang Yuhuan, and Lu Shan, who are now ancient history, have been deceased for more than 1,000 years. She is completely taken aback by this information and immediately accuses him of being a liar. However, the child instructs her to simply observe the surroundings, as nothing remains unchanged. Currently, this world operates according to its own set of regulations. It may be enjoyable once you become proficient in it. However, it is also perilous. She remains unconvinced and elevates her sword in his direction. He gently reminds her that it is illegal to wave swords and that she must quickly learn the regulations. The woman inquires as to why he is exerting himself to assist her. The boy elucidates that it is similar to the manner in which he rescued his corpulent cat Melon from the harsh exterior. He simply felt compelled to assist. However, our protagonist must exercise greater caution when selecting his words, as she is once again irritated by his apparent comparison of her to a cat. She realizes that he is not as bad as she initially thought after some reflection, as he allowed her to enter and provided her with sustenance. Therefore, she inquires once more as to why he bothered to assist her. According to our protagonist, it is not an everyday occurrence to encounter an eccentric ancient girl such as her, and he is sincerely intrigued by her. He also mentions that she would likely be intrigued if their roles were reversed. The woman promptly refutes this assertion, asserting that if an individual as peculiar as our hero had appeared during her time, the chief would have promptly executed him. She is reminded by the individual that the current era is characterized by love and harmony. He informs her that she must adhere to the law, refrain from causing harm to others, and refrain from destroying anyone's property for the duration of her stay. Since that is evident, he permits her to determine whether she would like his assistance or to explore the outdoors. He cautions her one final time before departing, warning her that she will be detained if she injures civilians. The woman is in a precarious situation, as she is unable to escape the location. She is unsure of what to do. The boy then offers to order her sustenance if she wishes to remain. But she is compelled to relinquish her katana, as he is also apprehensive about being apprehended. She reluctantly relinquishes her katana in the absence of any other alternatives. After that, he begins to formulate a list of items that will not be too unfamiliar to her. He momentarily contemplates ordering mooncakes, but ultimately opts to provide her with rice and buns. He instructs her to shower while they await the arrival of her sustenance. The woman, bewildered, inquires as to where she is supposed to cleanse. She is astounded by the spectacle as our hero leads her into the bathroom. He advises her not to be overly astonished, as there are numerous additional surprises in store. He also assures her that there is no need for concern, as all of the items vicinity are benign. For example, when he exhibits the shower to her, she observes it with the same curiosity as a puppy. Our hero is unable to resist the temptation to capture her curiosity on his phone as she tests it out herself. He subsequently exposes her to the concept of toilet and bath shampoo. Afterward, he waits outside while she takes a shower. He searches through his possessions in an effort to locate an appropriate garment for her. While attempting to knock, he inadvertently opens the bathroom door, upon realizing that she is unable to secure it. However, he informs her that he does not possess any women's apparel, and she will be required to wait for a suitable replacement. In the interim, he determines to instruct her on how to secure the door. Subsequently, he is ejected from the premises. However, the woman is currently relishing her initial shower in this new environment. She even attempts to ingest the shampoo bubbles, but she ultimately spits them out. In the interim, our protagonist is uncertain as to whether or not this is all genuine. He takes her sword and meticulously inspects the gleaming blade, determining that it is authentic after consulting with an expert. The girl emerges from her ablution in her new attire, and while our hero is preoccupied with something else, she inquires about the subject of his writing. He does not respond immediately, but he eventually passes her the paper. She begins gazing at it with great concentration, as it enumerates the most pressing matters that require attention. The list includes common household items that she is expected to incorporate into her daily routine. She subsequently expresses her dissatisfaction with her current attire. The boy responds by complimenting her appearance and stating that he is not making a sexual advance. Rather, he is simply expressing his admiration for her appearance, as is customary when someone is in good health. Still, she admonishes him sternly to refrain from making any suggestive comments. He abruptly observes her straw slippers and instructs her to store them, assuring her that he will procure new ones for her the following day. While he is observing her cuteness, the lady is startled by a sudden knock on the door. However, Shu Qing assures her that it is merely a delivery boy with food. Upon contemplation, he is unable to resist the urge to liken her to a feral cat, as she is perpetually vigilant and prepared to strike. He presents the food to her after extracting it from the plastic container. Lady Jiang recalls a statement her vice commander used to make, which was that if someone is assisting you for free, they must have ulterior motives. Upon hearing this, Shu Qing begins to weep. However, she eventually beams and informs him that she is of the opinion that he is a wholesome individual. After finishing her meal, Shu Qing resolves to engage in conversation with the girl within a few moments. The first thing he informs her of is that she is no longer in the primordial era and must adjust her beliefs accordingly. He informs her that she would not be able to survive for more than a week if she were to rely on her sword for survival and ultimately slay him. Therefore, he suggests that she cease her sword playing and concentrate on other activities, such as using the television for entertainment. He also emphasizes that the smartphone can be quite beneficial. In essence, he is attempting to reassure her that she is entirely secure in this location and that no one is likely to cause her injury. The girl nods in agreement upon hearing this, and our hero breathes a murmur of relief. However, the external environment complicates matters. He elucidates that, despite the fact that this is a peaceful planet, it could be perilous for her. Lady Zhang inquires as to why this is the case, and our hero responds that she may inadvertently cause harm to another individual. For example, it is probable that she would be arrested if she entered a regal castle with her sword drawn. It is the same situation in the physical world as well. In addition, he also provides her with an explanation of the concept of an identity card, cautioning her that she should be cautious of police officers who may request to see it. Consequently, Shu Qing's initial objective is to generate an identification document for herself. Otherwise, she will be conspicuous wherever she travels, as she is not a natural fit for this environment. The woman inquires whether she is a refugee in this location after hearing about the ID card. In reality, Shu Qing informs her. The repercussions are quite severe if she is apprehended. The woman is startled, but Shu Qing attempts to reassure her by vowing to assist her, as encountering an individual from 1200 years ago is not an everyday occurrence. Nevertheless, the woman continues to be hesitant, uncertain as to whether she can rely on him and simply wishing to return home. To which the boy responds that it will be challenging for him to assist her in her current circumstances, and their best chance is for her to cooperate to the greatest extent feasible. The woman reluctantly agrees to cooperate and inquires about the initial steps. In a moment of silence, the girl abruptly glances around and inquires about Shu Qing's wife, as she desires a companion with whom to engage in discussion. Shu Qing responds without delay. First and foremost, do not draw that sword. However, the unfortunate individual confesses, I am actually unmarried. Despite his reluctance to acknowledge it, the woman is taken aback, and the room is suddenly eerily silent. Shu Qing promptly assurances her that it is common for individuals of his age to not be married, and instructs her to make herself at ease in the spare room he has reserved for her. She discreetly nods and follows him as he demonstrates the new room in which she will be residing. The room is cluttered, but Shu Qing promptly organizes it, ensuring that there is ample space for a single individual to comfortably sit. It is evident that the woman is not particularly enthusiastic about her stay at this location, particularly in the presence of an eccentric individual such as him. Nevertheless, Shu Qing retrieves a few extra blankets and carefully arranges them on her new bed, encouraging her to take a nap. He recognizes that she must be experiencing some degree of perplexity, and he desires that upon their awakening tomorrow, everything will appear to have occurred in a single dream. He exits the room, but not before introducing himself as Shu Qing, wishing her a good night, and leaving her alone in her chamber. The lady initially returns her sword to its proper location before retiring to her comfortable bed. Shu Qing awakens at midnight, feeling a bit agitated as he contemplates the entire tumultuous day. Initially, he was unsuccessful in job interviews, and upon his return, it began to pour. In some way, he was able to return home and subsequently encountered a girl who draws her sword whenever she feels like it. However, he says, ignore this, and retires to bed as he has a plethora of tasks to attend to tomorrow. He finds that it is already 10 o'clock when he awakens the following day and retrieves his phone. He abruptly awakens in his bed, recalling the deranged woman. He promptly begins to examine the surroundings, and upon observing her seated there, he finally comprehends that he was not dreaming. He gathers himself and extends a happy morning to her, inquiring as to why she arose so early. She promptly informs him that it is nearly noon. He then inquires whether she is famished, to which she responds in the affirmative, albeit with a slight hesitation. Then, she stares in search of something in her chest, and quickly returns to her room, returning with 2 silver pieces. She informs him that he can use them to purchase sustenance. Shu Qing is taken aback by the silver in his possession, despite his awareness that it is not a valuable commodity. Nevertheless, he believes that if she possesses any gold, he could utilize it to obtain funds and potentially assist her in obtaining an ID card. The girl exhibits an additional stone, but Shu Qing promptly instructs her to retain it, as she is unable to venture outdoors at this time. He closely observes her, estimating her height and width, and assures her that he will purchase her clothing and sustenance at a later time. He then proceeds to the restroom to brush his teeth and freshen up. He then proceeds to the center to select appropriate clothing for her. After considering a variety of options, his eyes are drawn to a specific dress, and he informs the attendant that he will select it as well. It appears that he observed a few bras in the distance, but he was unable to access the section independently. He eventually finishes his shopping after an hour and examines the items he has acquired, feeling embarrassed about holding women's cosmetics. He then proceeds to the bookstore, where he purchases a selection of books, and proceeds through the congested city to his apartment. The guard inquires about the details of our individual's purchasing excursion upon his arrival at the building's entrance. Our individual endeavors to conceal all of the feminine items in his possession. The guard also inquires about the phone call from yesterday, and he fabricates an explanation, claiming that he inadvertently dialed the incorrect number. The guard cautions him to exercise caution in light of the recent burglaries in the vicinity before he departs. He ensures the guard that he will remember and nods. Upon his return to his apartment, he discovers that the woman is standing with her sword nearly drawn, prepared to attack any intruders. The boy reassures her that she is secure and hands over the food box, mentioning that he has also brought some essentials. Suddenly, a realization dawns on him. He observes her with interest, prompting her to inquire about his thoughts. He awkwardly inquires aloud whether she should be expressing gratitude to him and viewing him as a decent individual or a youthful hero. The lady, despite her misunderstanding of his perspective, expresses gratitude. It appears that it may require some time for her to ascertain the thoughts of this eccentric individual. Our hero is taken aback by the lady's voracious consumption of her supper, as she consumes it in the manner of a wild animal, in stark contrast to the refined image he had of women from her era. Nevertheless, he is delighted to observe her having a good time. He presents her with the new dresses and shoes he purchased after they have finished dining. He continues to search for additional items, and in the interim, the girl observes the bra he purchased for her. The man is apprehensive, as if his soul is about to emerge from his virgin body. He promptly advises her to keep the item down and pledges to send her a video demonstrating how to use the bra to conceal her headlights. He disposes of all the items he acquired and instructs her to resolve the matter independently, as he is humiliated. However, it appears that he has acquired a number of intriguing objects. Additionally, he has brought a selection of books to assist her in comprehending the culture and society of this globe. He intends to instruct her in the use of a computer in order to facilitate her independent learning. He advises her to obtain an adequate amount of sleep before they can determine their subsequent course of action, as she appears fatigued and restless. Nevertheless, she proceeds to inquire about his current status in the world. Upon hearing this, he reconsiders his situation and acknowledges that he is a graduate student who is still in the process of seeking employment. It is amusing that, despite his unemployment, he is able to afford to purchase high-end cosmetics and clothing. Consequently, the lady begins to suspect that he is a wealthy individual. However, our protagonist promptly refutes this notion by asserting that he originates from an impoverished family. Next, she begins to speculate that he may be a proprietor or some other type of individual. Nevertheless, she immerses herself in her literature. However, she is overcome with emotion when she encounters the antiquated photographs from her youth and contemplates how she will return home. The youth informs her that he is unaware of how to transport her to the destination, but he inquires as to how she arrived at this location. The lady discloses that she was pursuing a small thief in heavy rain, became disoriented in the forest, and wandered until she encountered these towering houses. It appears that this individual is uninformed about the process of returning her to her home. However, he deftly alters the subject by informing her that she must endure in this world before returning. Next, without missing a beat, he inquires about her martial arts abilities and military rank. Initially, this individual inquired about her martial arts abilities due to his interest in them. The lady provides him with a precise response that he appreciates, stating that her Yan clan is the most powerful clan in the area. He inquires with enthusiasm about the maximum height at which she can leap without incurring injury. The woman confidently advances, pointing to the 4th floor of the building, and asserts that she can leap from there without a scratch. The individual's eyes are nearly erupting with amazement at this revelation. He then becomes even more enthusiastic, anticipating the opportunity to observe all of the intricate maneuvers she has mastered. He begins to recite a series of martial arts skill names that he likely acquired from video games, but they are all meaningless to her. He even inquires as to whether she is familiar with Kung Fu, and extends an enthusiastic invitation to learn from her. However, the woman advises this ebullient individual to remain calm, as he is beyond the age of learning and, despite his perseverance and determination, will not be able to accomplish much. The lad becomes composed and inquires whether these maneuvers are excessively rigorous. Lady Zhang shook her head, stating that the objective is not to become a master, but rather to master a few fundamental techniques without adhering to the stringent regulations. She then assumes a position and demonstrates the initial basic martial arts maneuver, which emphasizes the importance of grounding oneself and the use of the midriff. She elucidates that martial arts training is a gradual process that is developed on a day-to-day basis. Subsequently, he requests to practice with stakes and practically pleads for them. She reminds him that it will require 3 years for him to acquire knowledge of consequences. The individual believes that he could become a fully fledged army combatant within that time frame. Consequently, he relinquishes his interest in martial arts and requests that she instruct him on sword techniques. He is once again brought back to reality by the woman, who informs him that it is now too late to perfect his reflexes, as his eyes are currently incapable of keeping pace with his hands. Ultimately, he discards his aspiration to become a warrior and instructs her to put on the clothing. He does not hesitate to capitalize on the opportunity once she is in the restroom. He seizes her sword and commences to wield it as if he were the reincarnation of the ninja. However, This individual is unable to maintain the pace due to the sword's excessive weight in comparison to his diminutive musculature. The woman emerges from the restroom, and the individual is taken aback by her radiant appearance in her new attire. She walks around to ensure that her clothes are not too tight, and they suit her like they were custom made. Mr. Forgetful becomes elated at this point, as he observes that her hair is disorganized and realizes that he neglected to purchase her a hairband. He instructs her to secure her tresses with a band, and upon doing so, she appears even more attractive, making her an ideal candidate for marriage. He is overcome with emotion and begins to weep, regretting that he had underestimated her intellect solely because she was from ancient times. He determines to take her for a walk tonight and assures her that he will purchase her a suitable hair tie upon his return home. The girl peeks outside her room as dusk approaches and observes the boy seated at the desk. She emerges and inquires about his activities. He attempts to elucidate the intricacies of computers to her, such as the ability to engage in vicious trash talk in the chaotic forums of Call of Duty. He also cautions her to avoid 4chan in order to preserve her mental health. The boy then inquires whether she is enjoying reading literature. She acknowledges that the majority of the information is immediately lost on her. However, she is gradually acquiring it. The individual advises her to relax, affirming her that there is no need for urgency, and reminding her of her inherent intelligence and bravery. He jests that if he were in her position, he would likely be a hopeless case. Lady Zhang's cheekbones turn a fiery shade of tomato red as she gazes affectionately at our hero. The woman sneaks up behind him once more and inquires whether he is not required to work while he is relaxing at his desk. He shrugs, asserting that he is already working hard to earn a living in this world. However, when she envisions an individual earning money, she does not envision a slob gazing at a massive screen. Our protagonist elucidates that his objective is to generate immediate revenue through online transactions. He recommends that she begin with the fundamentals, as she would not comprehend all of the technical information. He is struck by a brilliant notion regarding how to familiarize her with some fundamental concepts. When he inquires about the strength of her chief's martial arts abilities, she responds that they are quite impressive. The individual plays a video on his computer and inquires as to whether the individuals depicted on the screen are sufficiently potent. His screen displays intense combat scenes, which cause the lady's eyes to light up. He gazes at her with the same enthusiasm and inquires about her thoughts. She acknowledges that these maneuvers are unfamiliar to her, and the mere thought of engaging in combat with these characters causes her to feel apprehensive enough to pray. Subsequently, he displays an additional absurd video in which an individual utilizes his palm to penetrate an entire wall. She is utterly horrified upon observing this. Our idiotic hero enthusiastically inquires about her opinion of the video, causing her to tremble. She inquires, with a voice that is tinged with dread and a pale face, whether all individuals present possess that magnitude of power. He promptly corrects her and assures her that the entire situation is fabricated and untrue. This only serves to escalate her frustration, as she presses for clarification regarding his credibility. He reiterates that the kung fu she recently witnessed was empty nonsense. He subsequently elucidates to her that individuals in this world generate objects based on their conceptions. For instance, the martial arts he demonstrated to her are the ones that the local populace regards as legitimate, despite the fact that they are exaggerated. It appears that Lady Zhang is beginning to comprehend all of these concepts. He assures her that she will eventually comprehend the concepts of art and cinema. Then, Shuqing eventually poses his original inquiry. Is her chief's kung fu superior to what she has observed thus far? Well, she regretfully acknowledges that it is not the case. Then, he inquires about the methods of flight. She verifies their existence. However, the majority of individuals specialize in a single area. She emphasizes the unreal nature of those cinematic stunts, as physical strength is limited. The lad pauses for a moment, switches to another video, and inquires whether she is capable of performing the maneuver. She contemplates the matter briefly, then rises from her seat and begins to rapidly flail her arms, moving in a blur. Shuqing is ecstatic to witness her master the technique, and enthusiastically informs her that she has mastered it. She assures him that she will be available to instruct him at any time he desires. She departs with those words, leaving my partner to perform a brief ecstatic dance, likely in the hopes of one day becoming a warrior. She observes a plump cat in her path as she proceeds to her room. However, she disregards the diminutive feline and abruptly closes the door in its direction. She releases a sigh of dread upon entering her room, as she realizes that no one in this world is truly without ulterior motives. The reason our hero is assisting her is to acquire a basic understanding of martial arts. She is genuinely frightened by this unfamiliar environment. The bizarre occurrences are illogical. However, she then appears to gaze upward at the expansive ceiling, grasps her sword, and commences her practice. Our hero is intrigued by the noise emanating from her bedroom, as if she intends to forego her slumber. He also collapses onto his bed, perplexed by the presence of a woman in the vicinity of his room. Nevertheless, the notion induces an intense sense of joy in him, and he drifts off to slumber with those delightful thoughts still lingering in his mind. The heavy voices abruptly jolt him aware. He glances outside to observe the approaching dusk, examines his phone, and realizes that he has been sleeping for the entire day. He immediately rises and resolves to accompany Lady Jiang to demonstrate the real world. While she is putting on her shoes, he provides her with guidance on the appropriate behavior in public spaces, emphasizing that she must not take any action without his consent. He inquires whether she comprehends all the regulations after they have been delineated, to which she responds in a submissive manner, yes. Additionally, he ensures that a photograph of her is captured prior to their departure. Nevertheless, the photograph depicts her beauty as that of a molester who anticipates snatching a peach in the streets. The lad requests that she extend a smile to him. However, her forced grin is even more unappealing than her typical demeanor, and he is on the brink of fainting. He abandons the notion of a photograph and determines that they should proceed immediately. However, prior to their departure, he instructs her to leave her katana behind, as he is averse to any potential complications. Despite Lady Jiang's immediate refusal, the boy assures her that the individuals on the streets are as vulnerable as he is, and therefore she has no reason to be concerned about anyone. The lady regretfully relinquishes her sword. He attempts to capture an additional photograph of her while she is standing. This time, he successfully captures a high-quality photograph and enthusiastically declares, "Let's commence." The girl begins to scan the area with apprehension as soon as they exit the apartment building. This neighborhood is inhabited by families, as our hero elucidates. He identifies the primary entrance and the road leading to the exterior, and he mentions the stores on either side where individuals can purchase food, clothing, or other necessities. Lady Jiang is likely under the impression that a man on a scooter is a mystical vehicle, which is why she feels intimidated. As they proceed, they observe several individuals. A woman who is obese immediately recognizes Lady Jiang for some unknown reason. The woman maintains that she has previously encountered the girl, while the girl conceals herself behind the man. In the interim, a guard inquires whether our protagonist has acquired a girlfriend. However, the boy dismisses the notion and asserts that she is merely an acquaintance. However, it appears that this corpulent woman is not relenting. She immediately recognizes Lady Jiang as the sword-wielding woman from yesterday. The fat lady provides a comprehensive explanation of the sword she possessed, and the officer and the woman commence discourse regarding it. Our protagonist promptly intervenes, exclaiming that it was merely cosplay, a practice in which individuals impersonate fictitious or historical figures. Fortunately, the obese lady purchases the cosplay narrative, and our hero capitalizes on the opportunity by grabbing Jiang's hand and departing quickly. The elderly man is reminded of his own past as he observes them walking side by side. Lady Jiang begins to feel irritable and withdraws her hand once they are no longer visible. He inquires as to whether that woman encountered her yesterday. The boy is now certain that Jiang must have encountered the woman on the staircase, as the girl remains silent in response to this inquiry. Conversely, they persist in their travels together. The woman is taken aback by the rapidity of the vehicles. The boy then provides a concise account of the evolution of cars from horse carriages to these robust, fast engines. She infers that there must be a horse trapped inside, which would provide the necessary horsepower to operate the vehicle, as she is unable to comprehend the operation of these devices. The lad subsequently introduces her to the concept of cameras and elucidates how the films they viewed were captured using these devices. He emphasizes that individuals from afar would continue to observe the CCTV footage and could potentially result in his detention if he were to misbehave with her. Therefore, he assures her that she is not their target, as long as she maintains her composure. Lady Jiang retrieves a few pebbles from the ground, and our protagonist promptly advises her against contemplating the possibility of damaging any cameras. She promptly halts, and he instructs her to simply dispose of the stones. He then elucidates the operation of traffic lights, emphasizing that red signals a halt and green signals that it is permissible to cross the road. Because I desire my peers and fellow viewers to acquire knowledge, I am narrating this. Jiang's attention is immediately drawn to the grocery stores and the brilliant streetlights after they cross the road. She is also captivated by the high-speed automobiles. The boy selects a hair ribbon for the lady as they stroll. However, he quickly realizes that it may not be appropriate for her after all when he envisions her with those adorable fur orbs on her head. He begins to contemplate the array of charming, sparkling items that are arranged before them. Lady Jiang's response to our hero's inquiry regarding her preference for a specific ribbon is immediate agreement. She vehemently stretches the ribbon once she has it in her hands, but she then correctly uses it and places it on her head, once again exuding a cute and beautiful appearance. Even our protagonist is unable to suppress his admiration for her attractiveness. Our duo enters a restaurant as the sun lowers and the city illuminates. Our hero orders a side dish of sliced cucumber and 2 fried rice cakes with additional seasonings. The youth discloses to Jiang that this is the same location from which all of their food is sourced as they search for a seat. This restaurant is his go-to destination due to its exceptional cuisine, which he has been fond of since childhood. Suddenly, Jiang's mind is completely enraptured by the vibrant lights that dance before her. She is so engrossed in the present that she is taken aback when the waiter arrives with their meals. The boy determines to begin eating and presents her with a pair of chopsticks. He realizes that he likely made the right decision by not allowing her to venture off by herself, as she appears to be anxious. He chugs down his lemon juice. It is evident that she requires more assistance than he initially anticipated. However, he is confident in his ability to instruct her in a systematic manner. Upon concluding their meal and paying the bill, they depart the restaurant with a sense of satisfaction, particularly our protagonist. They return home, and upon their arrival, he inquires whether she is beginning to feel relaxed. She does not respond and remains seated in silence on the settee. He attempts to assuage her by asserting that the existence in this world is not as detrimental as she perceives, particularly in light of the abundance of both delectable and unhealthy foods. He informs her that she will be able to appreciate it even more once she has her own ID card. However, she remains unenthusiastic about remaining and discreetly expresses her desire to return home despite his assurances. However, he still reminds her that she is unable to return home, as it has been 1,200 years. It appears that she is obligated to acknowledge the facts. She inquires as to how they intend to resolve the identity issue. The individual clarifies that he is not a government official and is unable to address this matter. However, he assures her that he will assist her in any way possible. The female is embarrassed and expresses her appreciation for his generous gesture. This time, she expresses her gratitude by referring to him as a youthful warrior. The boy responds with the same brotherly intensity, underscoring the importance of identity in this world and the difficulty of navigating without it. He then inquires about the location of the inventory he provided her with yesterday. The dustbin is indicated by the lady. The lad is displeased with her behavior and instructs her to retrieve the item immediately. The woman inquires about the course of action in the event that the ID card issue remains unresolved, after she retrieves the paper from the bin. Our protagonist emphasizes that she will become a criminal, and there is nothing he can do to prevent this. She emphasizes that an ID card is the ultimate possession in this society, as it is necessary for employment, property acquisition, and public transportation. The woman has a brilliant notion and inquires whether the importance of the ID would diminish if she were to earn money and secure a place to live. The boy elucidates that there are still numerous activities that she is unable to perform without an ID, such as opening a bank account, using a phone, accessing online accounts, and conducting online purchasing. The list is endless. He then opens his laptop and searches for an unregistered resident certificate. He also instructs the woman to contact the authorities directly for assistance with her ID card. He assured her that the most likely outcome is that they may confiscate her, but he is confident that they will treat her with respect. Lady Zhang promptly reaches for her sword, inquiring as to whether he is contemplating surrendering her to the authorities. The youngster advises her to disregard the matter and concentrate on her studies. He recommends that she examine history or some other subject, and that she can make an informed decision once she has a fundamental understanding of contemporary society. The woman appears visibly apprehensive and sad, and she becomes silent. She inquires whether it would be an issue for him if she is to remain in this location. She is assured by our hero that she is free to remain in this location for an indefinite period of time. However, she is advised not to engage in combat or act violently with her weapon. He guarantees that all will be well. Suddenly, the cat appears. and the boy realizes that he nearly neglected to feed the furry creature amid the chaos. He interacts with the cat briefly and informs Lady Zhang that she may engage in academic pursuits if she is unable to find any other activities. The girl determines to do so and bows her head. It appears that the individual did not discover anything of value on the internet. Consequently, he consults his phone and elects to contact a friend. He is about to contact his closest friend, Qin Hao, who is now a highly competent police officer. However, he is uncertain as to whether his internship period has concluded, and Qin Hao is now a full-fledged officer. While conversing with Qin Hao via text, he contemplates whether or not to disclose that he has encountered a woman from 1200 years ago. However, he ultimately decides against it, and arranges a meeting with his companion without disclosing any information regarding their encounter. The child decides to take a shower to freshen up, as he is feeling happy. He experiences a profound sense of contentment subsequent to the steaming bath. He then realizes that the girl has not yet showered, but he chooses not to fixate on the matter. Suddenly, he recalls that he is sharing space with an individual of the opposite gender. He is aware that he would be in trouble if she spotted him wandering around naked. He is fortunate that no one observes him, and he quickly enters his bedroom. Lady Zhang cautiously emerges from her room, dashes to the bathroom with her clothes in hand, and promptly shuts the door for a much-needed bath, as she used to do on a regular basis in ancient times. Given that it is the weekend, the lad acquires a digital writing pad and commences instructing her in the art of writing. She has already demonstrated proficiency in reading traditional Chinese characters and accurately pronouncing them. Consequently, she is currently endeavoring to compose a few words. Suddenly, a melon appears, capturing the attention of both individuals. The boy determines to feed the cat, as the cat appears to be hungry, while Lady Zhang continues to practice her writing. Lady Zhang becomes intrigued as she observes him distribute cat food and inquires about its composition. Xu Qing responds that it is specifically designed for cats. Lady Zhang immediately envisions the production of cat food in the form of pouches suspended from towering trees. Unexpectedly, a knock on the door prompts the boy to hurry to retrieve the food delivery. He presents it to the woman, informing her that it will serve as her dinner for the evening. He intends to meet with his associate later to inquire about her identity card. The girl commences to consume the food without delay, and our hero guarantees that he will instruct her on the operation of a computer and phone to facilitate communication. Little Melon interrupts her meal to request food, but the individual retrieves his cat and advises her to consume her own cat food. The woman, being curious, meekly inquires whether it would be possible to share some of her food with the cat. The boy nods and explains that this type of food is not suitable for cats. The woman is taken aback by the news and her thoughts are temporarily halted. How can this food be beneficial for humans if it is not wholesome for animals? She even experiences the sensation that her hamburger is no longer appealing. Immediately thereafter, he instructs Lady Zhang on how to utilize Discord to communicate with him on his phone, emphasizing that his voice will not be concealed within the computer, but rather transmitted through the transmission waves. He scratches his cranium as he exits his dormitory, uncertain if everything is in order. After a bus journey, he eventually arrives at his destination. He glances around and observes his companion, who is seated in the distance and is waving at him as he steps off. Greetings are exchanged when they eventually meet in person. Afterward, Officer Chen pours a chilled beer for our hero, mentioning that it is the first time he is serving him in this manner. Our hero inquires of his companion how he is able to consume alcohol while serving as a police officer, and they both settle down. Qin Hao clarifies that he is not on assignment and is dressed in a casual manner, as he is simply visiting as an ordinary individual. The child then meticulously records the delectable items he intends to consume before placing his order. They exchange glasses and raise a salute to one another. Xu Qing inquires about the status of his employment and the experience of being an exceptional officer. Qin Hao characterizes it as terrible, and the notion that heroes will save the day is absurd. He describes how he is frequently involved in trivial disputes between couples, and subsequently finds himself resolving conflicts with elderly women in the neighborhood. He rarely encounters those who steal. Rather, he addresses trivial matters and disputes on a daily basis. However, our hero, Xu Qing, emphasizes the positive aspects of the situation, stating that the majority of individuals are living and working in a happy manner, which is a positive development. Despite his current dissatisfaction with his occupation, Qin Hao had always harbored aspirations of becoming a police officer since childhood. Nevertheless, he ceased to develop after reaching a height of 1.6 meters, as he was aware that the minimum height requirement was 1.7 meters. He wept profusely while being held by our hero. He was eager to begin practicing daily when the height requirement was replaced by the high jump, and he eventually realized his goal. Fortunately, this occurred. However, the officer is so fatigued from addressing trivial disputes that he jokes that he would even battle a woman with a sword if necessary to create a spectacle. He is promptly advised by our hero to refrain from making light of such matters. Suddenly, the boy shifts the conversation and casually inquires about the consequences of a homeless individual who has lost their memory and wishes to obtain an ID card and work without any proof of citizenship. The officer responds by emphasizing that obtaining an ID card is a challenging process, and that an individual who fits this description is likely to be suspicious. He requests the name and address of the individual he is discussing from our hero with the vigor of an officer. The child endeavors to fabricate a narrative regarding his mother's brother's son, whose friend is similarly situated. The officer interrupts him, instructing him to cease his idle talk and reminding him that they are unable to obtain an ID card without a form of identification, such as a blood test or similar. The boy persists in his inquiry, inquiring as to whether the individual he confronted was unfamiliar and unusual, such as a homeless individual. The officer emphasizes that their conduct must be scrutinized if it is deemed suspicious. The boy immediately instructs his companion to cease gazing at him as if he were harboring a fugitive upon observing his suspicious gaze. He is adamant that he is not present to deliberate on the methods of concealing the identity of another individual. His companion concurs, assuring him that he has his back. He recommends that the stranger be asked for fundamental information. Additionally, they could verify information by utilizing a person's directory or DNA information. His companion abruptly becomes agitated, instructing our protagonist to cease the conversation and commences to consume his beer. The boy jokes that he only arrived here because he required a topic of conversation, otherwise they would not have crossed paths. Subsequently, he jokingly extends his hands and instructs his companion to forget everything, instructing him to handcuff himself in order to simulate the experience of being interrogated and cuffed. The officer's response remains unchanged, despite the fact that our hero brings up the ID card subject again after their banter. He provides an example in which criminals would be attacking individuals on a daily basis and escaping with new identities to begin anew if it were so simple to obtain a new ID. The officer is found unconscious after consuming an excessive amount of alcohol, as they continue to engage in a back-and-forth conversation. Our protagonist endeavors to awaken him by reminding him of his obligation to mediate disputes between elderly women. However, the officer is merely inquiring for additional lager, and our protagonist instructs the waiter to refrain from bringing any more. The boy is responsible for paying the account, while his friend continues to desire additional alcohol. Subsequently, our protagonist discovers that there is a 50% discount available for purchases exceeding 100 won. Consequently, he purchases an abundance of fish for Lady Jiang. After bidding farewell to his companion who is experiencing hiccups, he retrieves his takeout and returns to his residence. Although he is somewhat disheartened by the lack of a lead, he is not concerned. The girl is fast asleep when he returns home, and he is unable to resist admiring her attractiveness. As he gazes at her, his heart and brain appear to malfunction, leaving him uncertain about the emotions that are brewing within him. The girl awakens abruptly, feeling somewhat stunned at his return. He displays the food he brought to her, and she discreetly expresses her gratitude. The child insists that she say it loud and clear, as he is not content with a simple thank you. The lady, blushing, replies, "Thank you, young warrior." This elicits an exaggerated response from the boy, who claims that it was a simple task and a minor contribution. The lady inquires whether he consumed an excessive amount of alcohol as he unpacks the food. He declines and presents her with a yogurt package, instructing her to consume it prior to imbibing. He begins to rub his tongue against the sweet and sour yogurt, and she follows suit, surprisingly relishing it and diving right in. The child advises her to consume the food immediately and prevent it from becoming cold. He cannot help but smile as he enters the bathroom to take a bath, experiencing the comfort of returning home and seeing someone waiting for him. The girl promptly recognizes him upon his return to the outside after his bath. At first, she is perplexed when he inquires whether she has examined her attire. She then recalls the bra he had given her and is deeply humiliated by the mere thought of it. It appears that the attempt to resolve the matter through YouTube tutorials was unsuccessful. She later proceeds to the restroom to change. She is apprehensive about donning the elaborate dress, as she is accustomed to wearing simple attire that corresponds with her disposition. She is curious as to what type of prickly royalty she will resemble in this new dress. She arranges the undergarments and dress on the bed, bathes, and blow-dries her hair with a blow-dryer. She is extremely appreciative of the compassionate young man who has assisted her in adjusting to the situation. However, she is aware that relying on him is not a sustainable solution, and she can only go so far with her limited understanding. The girl emerges from her bedroom, massaging her sleep-deprived, fatigued eyes as the sunlight of the following day filters through the window. It appears that our protagonist awoke earlier than usual this time. Lady Zhang inquires whether he is working early in the morning, to which he responds that he is simply viewing the news. The girl immediately emits a disheartening aura and inquires as to whether he is a government official. The lad assures her that he is not, pointing out that if he were, she would already possess her much-coveted ID card. He then inquires as to whether she is famished and extends an invitation to purchase breakfast, inquiring as to whether she would like to accompany him. The boy decides to go alone, informing the girl that she can Netflix and relax in the meantime, and the girl declines and heads to the bathroom. The youngster walks outside while humming a melody. The lad reluctantly approaches the old guard, who summons him, and he observes that 2 additional individuals are present. One of the women inquires whether he has heard any peculiar, unsettling noises recently. Her expression suggests that she suspects our hero of being the source of these sounds. The boy appears to be entirely unaware of the topic the lady is discussing, and he informs them that he did not hear anything and slept soundly last night. The old man proposes that they may be haunted, as his dog was so terrified by something the previous night that it did not bark, prompting him to question whether there was a theft. The old guard confesses that he did not observe anything, but he did capture something on video footage when the lad inquires if he noticed anything else. He then exhales the smoke and takes a puff of his cigarette. The old man is playing the video in the surveillance room where they all congregate. The individuals in the footage are visibly terrified by the enigmatic creature, which is moving at such a rapid pace that it appears as a blur. Additionally, our protagonist is experiencing immense anxiety due to his conviction that Lady Zhang is the individual in question. He is perplexed as to why she is behaving in that manner and resolves to return to the apartments to inquire about her actions. It appears that we have now determined the reason for Lady Zhang's fatigue that occurred some time ago. It is probable that she was endeavoring to independently investigate this universe during the night in order to acquire new knowledge. The lad then inquires of the elderly man whether the same had occurred yesterday. The guard responds that it did not, stating that there was nothing unusual that occurred last night. He chuckles awkwardly and decides to consider the possibility that there may be a ghost in the vicinity. The chubby lady and the bald man over there become inquisitive about the presence of a ghost in the dead of night, particularly in their vicinity. The elderly gentleman determines to vigilantly monitor the area to determine whether there is an individual who is seeking an opportunity to pilfer. The boy returns home and immediately begins to yell at her, inquiring as to why she had escaped in the midst of the night. He gazes at her with a combination of apprehension and disappointment. The lad is further enraged by the girl's meek inquiry as to how he was aware of her wandering. He reminds her of the CCTV cameras that were present and captured her, causing him to facepalm in exasperation. The female appears to be somewhat apprehensive and concerned about him. Consequently, she promptly clarifies that she was donning a disguise. The lad sighs in relief and concludes that they are likely to be protected as long as she maintains her privacy. He informs her that she must accompany him whenever she plans to venture out in the future. During her stay, she is prohibited from embarking on any solitary excursions. He underscores the perilous nature of her circumstances, which is why she is unable to roam without restriction. The lady timidly inquires whether she caused any trouble for him, and he assures her that, fortunately, no one recognized her, as everyone believed that there was a specter haunting the location. It appears that the woman was unaware of the term haunting. Upon witnessing her bewildered expression, my partner becomes agitated once more. He promptly searches for a film about an individual from ancient times who is transported to the future and is subsequently arrested due to their reckless behavior. He is confident that the scenario he has just envisioned is a perfect match for the character's description, and he wishes to underscore the potential danger of her actions if she is not cautious. The girl appears timid and assures him that she will cease to cause any disturbance if it is a source of concern. The lad then advises her to remain composed and suggests that she order takeout at a later time. He inquires as to whether she would prefer hamburgers, chicken rolls, or any other dish. The boy taunts the lady by suggesting that she could try the cat food if she wishes to consume even healthier food, She responds with a charming smile and expresses gratitude for the nutritious food he is ordering for her. The lad retrieves the laundry and proceeds to load it into the washing machine following their amusing conversation. Additionally, he capitalizes on the opportunity to instruct her regarding the operation of the washing machine. The girl promptly returns to her room, retrieves her clothing, and then returns to the laundry room to deposit it in the washing machine. Shuqing observes an object concealed within her clothing as he examines the laundry. The girl is left feeling entirely embarrassed as he retrieves the item and holds it in the air, inquisitive. She swiftly retrieves the item from his grasp and returns to her chamber. Shuqing is taken aback by the fact that it is a foot binding, as it is incongruous that she was able to move around the neighborhood with her injured feet encased in the binding. He casts a quick glance at her, remembering that her feet appeared to be in immaculate condition when he last observed her in those shoes. Therefore, it is illogical for her to bind her ankles with clothing. He subsequently determines to conduct an online search to determine whether martial arts devotees are interested in any form of foot binding. However, the search results do not meet his expectations, as evidenced by his expression. He casually inquires if he may examine her feet by turning to her. She is evidently uncomfortable with the request, as evidenced by her obstinate pout and head shaking. "What is the reason for this?" the boy inquires, to which the girl responds with silence. It appears that this naive individual has finally realized that the bindings were intended for her torso, rather than her feet. It is unsurprising that she did not trouble with the undergarments he had brought earlier, and he believes that her hooters were already sufficiently large to accommodate anything. As he comprehends his blunder, his consciousness nearly leaps from his body. She presents him with a furious expression, her sword drawn and her eyes ablaze, as if she were prepared to cut off his head. Nevertheless, she is able to regain control of her nerves and turn around, leaving this fragile individual thoroughly terrified after being terrified to death. However, as she is already offended by him, he attempts to alleviate the situation by singing in his abysmal voice and calling her out. Lady Jiang is the sole subject of the lyrics, which describe her natural beauty without cosmetics, modest stature, and exquisite beauty from head to toe. He also sings a song about a man who adored an ugly woman but had 5 children with her. He asserts that only a gigachad with a sigma masculine mentality could accomplish such an act, and he is fervently seeking to emulate them. He is once again subjected to verbal abuse by the female, despite his efforts to engage in conversation. Afterward, he returns to the primary business and instructs her to view tutorials on how to don these undergarments. He will return in 5 minutes, with the expectation that he will not make as many jokes this time. He returns precisely 5 minutes later to monitor her advancement. However, to his astonishment, she appears to be in a state of complete panic and inquires whether this is the norm for the entire population. She mentions with a quivering voice that these undergarments may appear comfortable, but they make her feel like a harlot. The lad attempts to reassure her that there is nothing wrong with feeling comfortable, but she persists, referring to it as shameless. He questions her perspective, inquiring as to what there is to be embarrassed of. She ceases to speak after a brief period of reflection. He commences a witty tirade about how she is firmly entrenched in the past, whereas contemporary women are free to exhibit their endowments in any manner they desire. He also includes a jab, asserting that if a man can wear half undergarments, so can a woman. However, she remains steadfast in her convictions, promptly rejecting what she regards as immoral thinking. Upon realizing that he was unable to reason with her, the individual decided to shift his approach and attempt to soothe her. He disclosed that computers are not only ideal for studying and working, but they are also excellent for entertainment. He cautioned her about the venomous fanbase in games such as Apex Legends, and instead introduced her to a game that bore a striking resemblance to Super Mario. She was immediately captivated by the cartoonish world of leaping plumbers upon her initial viewing. While the woman was occupied with surpassing Nifsky's speedrun record, our hero discreetly retreated, deciding that it would be more advantageous to confine her indoors. Subsequently, upon his arrival home, he interrupted her game to instruct her on how to vanquish the final boss. He was exhausted following their gaming session and opted to take a snooze, while she continued to play on his laptop. Upon settling into his room, he contemplates the fortunate circumstance of not securing employment on that dreary day. In the event that the interview had been successful, it is probable that he would have been compelled to resign due to the responsibilities of overseeing a 1200-year-old ancient girl. Our hero returns to locate the woman as the room is illuminated by the yellow hue of dusk. He suggests that they dine out and advises her to dress appropriately this time rather than appearing disheveled. He even suggests that she experiment with a different appearance. She considers her options and emerges in a new dress, blushing as she adapts to the modern style, which is slightly too modern for her taste. The boy is also taken aback by her beauty, and he blushes. However, he swiftly encourages her to return to her original dress in order to avoid attracting attention in public. This causes the female to experience an indescribable amount of frustration and agitation. The elderly security officer inquires, in jest, whether he intends to accompany his girlfriend on another shopping excursion as they proceed outdoors. Our protagonist emphasizes that they are merely acquaintances, not in a romantic relationship. The elderly man then discloses that he is temporarily protecting himself from spirits by retaining a talisman until his mahogany arrives. Shu Qing gives a thumbs up and hurries along when asked if he resembles the god from the New Year's festivities, observing that it is getting late. In the interim, Lady Zhang is already preoccupied with her own reflections on a matter. She is unable to suppress her fascination and inquires of Shu Qing what the term girlfriend means once they are alone. He clarifies that it is simply a female acquaintance. She is bewildered as to why he had previously denied that she was his fiancée. He advises her to exercise patience and assures her that he will provide a more detailed explanation at a later time. Shu Qing is confident that Lady Zhang will abandon his residence as soon as she comprehends the real definition of girlfriend. The boy suggests that she view videos about the history of her kingdom as they resume their walk. However, she is hesitant, citing that revisiting her past is painful. Lady Zhang observes the absence of street vendors, curfews, and muddy craters in this tranquil environment as they stroll. In this prosperous universe, she experiences a surreal and dreamlike sensation. Shu Qing orders bubble milk tea and other treats at a tea stall, where their stroll comes to a halt. She encourages her companion to sample them. She observes with curiosity, but she is hesitant to consume alcohol. She inquires as to whether individuals in this world generate income through this method, and whether she could acquire the necessary skills to perform such tasks. Shu Qing explains that she can acquire the skills but is unable to generate money without an ID card, gently bursts her bubble. The boy assures her that the identity card issue will be resolved ultimately, suggesting that she should not lose hope as she somberly sips on her tea. He urges her to savor the tea at this time. He inquires whether she finds the beverage to be palatable as she consumes it. However, it transpires that she does not particularly enjoy it. She mentions that the pearls are challenging to chew, and that the taste is not quite to her preference. The child readily concurs, expressing that he shares the same sentiment and is perplexed by the appeal of this piss-like substance. The female gives him a cold stare, suggesting that she does not appreciate being the object of his taste critique. He promptly assures her that he believed that females preferred sweets, which is why he ordered it for her, despite the fact that his own beverage is slightly tart. Instead, he extends an invitation to her to sample his beverage. She cautiously sips his drink through the straw, and her face lights up with delight as the delectable flavor hits her palate. Therefore, the boy substitutes his beverage for Lady Zhang's pearl tea and extends a gentle smile to her, genuinely delighted that she appreciates it. Lady Zhang begins to sense that something is amiss as they proceed with their excursion. However, she resolves not to linger on the matter, opting to concentrate on sipping her beverage once more. The boy burps shamelessly after completing their meal, signifying that he is satiated. He recommends that they take a brief tour before returning home, and they proceed to meander through the lively city in the middle of the night. The lad abruptly decides to halt at a bus station and proposes that he take her to a desirable location. He advises her not to be alarmed and to simply follow him, as this is her initial experience boarding the bus. The youth enters the bus and guides her to a window seat, ensuring that she has the best possible experience. He then places a coin in the slot. The girl is astounded by the sight she observes as the bus begins to traverse the bustling streets. The boy is somewhat taken aback that she is not reacting more strongly, as it is her initial bus voyage. She discloses that she has engaged in numerous horse-drawn carriage rides. Upon their arrival at the Longjiang Bridge station, they disembark from the bus, and he introduces her to the new location known as Longjiang. He enthusiastically and proudly informs her that it may have been desolate during her time, but it is now the epicenter of the city's nightlife. She questions whether this is even feasible as she views the scene. If she finds it difficult to believe, the lad suggests that she investigate history in order to discover the answers she seeks. The youngster promptly retrieves his phone and captures a memento while they are standing by the river. The girl is in the ideal pose for a photograph, as she is gazing in his direction, and our hero captures the moment with a single click. Additionally, he assures her that he will arrange a flight for her once the matter with her identity card is resolved. He assures her once more that she can remain in his small, cramped room and acquire knowledge about the world, as the concept of ascending into the heavens is entirely unfamiliar to her. She is inquisitive as a child and inquires about the consequences of comprehending the universe. The lad pauses, contemplating for a moment, and explains that she will attain genuine freedom, acquiring a clear understanding of what is right and wrong for her, and she will be able to fully appreciate the future world. He proclaims that the time has arrived after checking his phone. The sky was illuminated by the vibrant colors and light of pyrotechnics that burst into the air precisely on cue. She's compelled to contemplate whether her family would be astounded by such a magnificent spectacle. He beams at her and urges her to relish this time here on behalf of her relatives. The news our hero receives the following day is, to put it mildly, unsettling. Lady Jiang is observed performing her ninja maneuvers outside by the electrical poles. Certainly, the individual's expression is negative upon seeing the object, but it is also somewhat comforting. The guards have been on patrol more frequently since she played ninja at midnight, so there would be no genuine criminals present for a brief period. Lady Jiang abruptly observes individuals congregating outside and inquires, "What is the situation?" as she points her pointer toward them. The realization that they have initiated rituals to ward off the spirits in the vicinity causes Shu Qing to feel uneasy. They resume their meals shortly thereafter, and the woman observes that Shu Qing's lifestyle is reminiscent of a prison. He chuckles and recollects that they had gone shopping earlier, watched documentaries, had lunch, shed a few tears over some anime, and then had supper. He informs her that it is referred to as the otaku lifestyle and the possession of a residence, but the girl appears to be unable to comprehend the concept. Consequently, Shu Qing clarifies that remaining at home entails the autonomy to determine one's activities and destinations. He likens it to an ancient landlord who resides in the estate with his family and a cat. The woman subsequently resolves to take a brief stroll, and Shu Qing inquires whether she would like to venture out independently. She remains silent, which serves as sufficient affirmation for him. Consequently, he launches into a tirade, enumerating all of the hazards and deficiencies she possesses, thereby effectively discrediting the concept and advising her to remain in this location until she is thoroughly educated about the world. He informs her that she is still required to determine how to generate income, even if he were to provide her with funds to dine at establishments. Otherwise, she will engage in an excessive purchasing spree. He reminds her that she has the option of either committing offenses to obtain immediate cash or engaging in hunting. However, due to the absence of hunting forests in the vicinity, she will likely end up sifting through trash. Ultimately, the girl falls silent and proceeds to consume her hamburger, contemplating that she is unable to engage in any form of independent activity in the absence of her solitary ID card. Shu Qing then places his hand in his pocket and offers her 2 coins, reminding her that she has at least learned how to take the bus so she can experience it independently. This will be her first step forward, and he sees her sad expression. However, the girl declines to accept the currencies, asserting that she has not acquired any knowledge. Nevertheless, Shu Qing forcibly hands her the funds, instructing her to spend time outdoors and assuring her that she has acquired a wealth of knowledge in the first month of her stay. The girl inquires about the existence of spirits, and the man responds by pointing to the individuals who are conducting their ghost-busting ritual outside. He guarantees her that she will be able to repay him once she begins to earn an income. He assures her that they will resolve the matter when she expresses concern about the consequences of not earning anything. She expresses her gratitude once more, referring to him as young warrior. The boy then launches a game on his computer, allowing her to investigate, play a character, and learn how to earn money. He recommends that she attempt it in order to determine whether she can master it. He clarifies that the process is quite intricate and that she should begin with the fundamentals when she inquires as to why she is unable to work online for a living, as he does. The boy is startled when the doorbell sounds, and he instructs her to seek refuge in her bedroom. However, the individual at the gate becomes extremely agitated and commands the child to speak at a higher volume. Shu Qing becomes even more agitated upon hearing that voice and hastily leads her into a room, locking the door before finally confronting his father. A grumpy elderly man is gazing at him. The boy nervously extends a greeting, but the elderly man adjusts his spectacles and insists that the boy refer to him as landlord for the time being. The elderly man then surveys the area, inquiring as to whether his son has secured employment. The boy, referring to his father as landlord, guarantees that he will pay the rent punctually and defends himself by asserting that he does not require an employment because he is able to afford the rent and his current lifestyle. The elderly man becomes agitated upon hearing this information, and, in the manner of a typical father, he begins to criticize his son for his significant shortcomings. However, the son attempts to interrupt him by asserting that he will joyfully pay the rent because his father is present. The old man becomes even more irritated when he observes an RPG game operating on the computer. He makes it abundantly clear that if his son is unable to secure employment by the end of the month, he will increase the rent without hesitation.